Hello, and welcome to Made to Matter, a podcast following the movers, makers, and mavericks in the marketing world. We're talking about the people and organizations that have made real strides not only in the fields of marketing, but in their communities and in the larger society as well. I'm your host, Paola Granados. I'm the social media manager for AnyPromo.com. On the surface, our company is a promotional product distributor, but at our core, we're a community invested in creating meaningful moments and connecting people together. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Tonya Wood of United Through Reading. Tonya is the program director for the United States National Guard and Reserves. As you will hear in the conversation, United Through Reading is a program focused on facilitating the bond between children and their deployed service member through the act of reading. Tonya speaks about the milestone that her organization recently reached by handing out 4,800 reading kits to military families across the United States. We were lucky to have been able to contribute a very special element in these kits. Keep listening to find out what that was and to hear about United Through Reading mission and the project with Tonya.
Why don't you tell me a little bit about why the nonprofit was started and maybe some of the founders who started it and how, they started to identify this as an issue that they could tackle?
Of course. So we were actually founded in 1989, and Betty Mullenbrock was our founder, and she was the wife, or is, she's still around, the wife of a naval flight surgeon. And while he was deployed, he left not only her, but also their infant daughter at home. And when he returned from that deployment, unfortunately, their daughter didn't recognize him. They didn't have that way to stay connected. And, that still happens today, though we have a lot of things in place to help combat that. And so not only did she witness that firsthand, but also her profession is that of a reading specialist. So kind of taking what she experienced in her own life, but also her profession, she worked to create United Through Reading. And it did start in San Diego, California. And it was her doing all of the legwork, kind of going down to the piers with her camcorder. Again, 1989, having her camcorder and such, and recording the sailors who were getting ready to deploy so that their families didn't experience what hers did. So while they were gone, those families were able to watch the video tapes of their loved one reading to them while they were away, so that when they came home, that they were the child recognized them, that they had been listening to stories the entire time, so that when they came home, they recognized their service member, they recognized their face, their voice, and that reunion went a lot smoother than what could have been if they hadn't have had that connection.
And so you said it started in the 80s. Which was a little while ago. And you said it started with camcorders. And how has the mission statement of the company changed over time? Because obviously I think technology has helped a lot with communication barriers and hopefully like pictures and stuff like that. So what kind of ways has it changed?
Sure. So the mission statement itself hasn't really changed. We definitely, the whole premise of our program was that we're united military families that are facing the physical separation. And we do that through the bonding experience of reading aloud. And so when Betty would go down to the piers using that camcorder, they still had the VHS tapes that they would put in their VCR, but they were still having that read aloud experience together. They were still separated, but that service member could still be a part of the family. Mm-hmm. So the mission itself hasn't changed, but as you were saying, technology certainly has. And so in our efforts to keep up with technology, we had the VHS tapes, but then we switched over to the mini-size DVDs. We had the full-size DVDs. We will put recordings on SD cards, and that is definitely beneficial for, some of our sites prefer to use that, but especially within the Navy, while they're out on a ship, there is no Wi-Fi connection because now we have an app available. Mm-hmm. And so that's really great, but a Navy ship doesn't have that Wi-Fi, that data connection. So it can't upload the recordings using our app. So it has to use those SD cards, and especially the way that technology is today, where folks are like, oh, that's really great, but we have all of these live features that allow us to be connected. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of, little tongue in cheek right here, but, the situation we just encountered, technology is not perfect. No, there's still going to be issues with connectivity or even time zone and missions that happen. And so by using our program, we're still able to have that bonding experience because recordings can be viewed offline. They can be used, put that SD card into a laptop or plug it into a smart TV, and you can still have those recordings and still watch them anytime. So you don't necessarily need that internet component to it for those times that it doesn't work.
I want to talk a little bit more about how, like, the ways in which children are involved and impacted. Obviously, there's that literacy element that you spoke about in the beginning. Can you tell us about, like, is there any sort of goals and metrics that you have for the children, or is it just kind of like the sake of like reading to them and making sure that there's that connection between their service member and the family?
Sure. So it's one of those things that the goal is always to have our service members being able to connect with the children that are in their lives. And, that is something that's really important as well, because we do have a lot of service members who may not have children of their own, but they have younger siblings, they have nieces and nephews, maybe they have grandchildren, godchild, or they're just really close, that honorary uncle, and they want to stay connected. And so the goal has always been to facilitate that bond. It doesn't matter how the child relates to you. If they are important to you, they're important to us. And we want to make sure that they have that connection. And so since we've started, we've had more than 2.7 million military members be able to connect with the important children that are in their lives. And it's one of those things where military separation, whether it's for deployment or training. My husband is military. He's currently a few states away for the week because he has a class he has to be at. And so kids go through it in all different shapes and forms, and it can look different depending on who you're talking to, but it doesn't erase the fact that their loved one is gone. They're still stressed out by it. We don't get to have them. We didn't get to see them. We didn't get to talk with them. And so the recordings help to ease that anxiety and stress that they can encounter. They're still, the service member is still part of their daily routine. It's speaking from experience. We read before bedtime. And, my husband had always taken on that role because I am fortunate that I'm able to work from home. So I could read before nap time. I could read throughout the day, but for him, that was their special moment. And so he's still a part of our family routine. He's okay, we're going to get ready for bed and then we're going to do our stories. And so they're able to be a part of that. And then, for me, it gave me a break because I love my kids, but I love having that break where I can sit and relax. And so it helped to do that they were able to see it. So for our children, especially, and, children who are tied to military, again, that could be because of a parent or just relative or extended friends and family. It impacts their life, and it allows them to have those connections, and it helps to reduce all of that. So our goal is always to have that impact, but also the literacy impact, because they're seeing the recordings, they're hearing their stories, but they're going to keep reading those books. Yeah. And literacy is a big thing, and it's incredibly important. And we want our children, all children, to have that exposure to literacy, to have that love of books and of reading, because that's going to impact them later on in life, not just dealing with the separation that military life can bring about, but it's also going to impact their academics, because we want them to have that love of learning and reading, and kind of get that head start when it comes to it, because that is one of those things where being able to read or having that love of reading and literacy does impact their academic career. And so it's impactful in so many different ways.
Yeah, it's when I was exploring your website, and I was like, this nonprofit really tackles so many issues that are going on in American life. Kind of mental health awareness, that connection with family, and like keeping the family unit important. And also literacy happens to be like one of the things that, reading literacy and is something that's kind of declining in some communities, not in all of them, but it's definitely something that it can be improved in the American educational system. And I was like, this is like the trifecta of nonprofits. And so it was just such a pleasure that we actually got to, even if it was in a small way, just like be a part of this kind of like bigger mission. But I do want to talk a little bit about like stories, and you just mentioned that your own partner is in the military, and so I'm assuming that you actually participate in this program, or
We do.
how'd you find your way into it, actually? That's another
Yeah, my husband was active duty,
question.
and he's now in the reserve. So he did make a switch, but while he was active duty, he was company commander, meaning he was in charge of one of the companies that we had within the unit. And at that time, I was very lovingly voluntold that I was going to be the FRG leader, Family Readiness Group, now SFRG, Soldier and Family Readiness. And so during one of our meetings that we held, where we had not only the service members, but also their families come together and kind of, here's what's going on within the company and with the unit, here's what you need to know. One of the spouses approached me and said, hey, you like books, because one of the things I had always promoted was Dolly Parton's Imagination Library. We actually, they serviced Alaska. So, making sure our families knew about that was crucial. And she said, you like books, you like free stuff. I said, well, yes, on all accounts. And she said, I want to tell you about this program that a friend of mine is a part of. And she said, I want to get you in touch with her so you can learn more about it. And I said, I would absolutely love that. Anything that benefits our service members and their families, I'm all for. Let's hear it. Mm-hmm. And so she introduced me to my now coworker, who explained the program. Here's what we do. Service members video record themselves reading a book. The children get to watch it at any time. They have access to the books and the recordings. It's all free. There's no cost associated with this program. And I was like, okay, what do I need to do? Sign me up. And so I became a recording site. And so I would offer it to the individuals within our company, within our unit. And then also we were stationed with Fort Wainwright, but Eielson Air Force Base was about 20 minutes away. So I would offer the program at both locations. And while members of our unit did deploy, my husband did not. He actually, as he transitioned out of company commander, he took an individual deployment. And so we weren't with the group, he was with an individual, but we use this program. And so, I share my personal experiences that FaceTime is fantastic. We used all that. We set up that we were going to talk to him when we could. We made it a point that it wasn't every day, just because knowing that schedules can change in internet. And I tell folks all the time, speaking from experience, if you've ever had the pleasure of FaceTiming with a toddler, that it's really not all it's cracked up to be, because their attention span isn't there. They want to show you the wall or the ceiling, or they're spinning in circles. There were quite a few times my husband would call home and my youngest would say, Dad, can you call back later? Because Curious George is on. And he was like, no, I can't do that. And so we reserved a lot of the phone calls for he and I. And then my kids would send videos, but he did the program. And so we had these recordings. And so we were able to watch it and stay connected that way as well. And then when he got back, he transitioned from active duty Army to reserve, and his civilian job also had him away from home a lot. And he did a lot of training, and he was gone for months at a time. And so he continued to use this program. And so my kids are a little bit older now. They're soon to be 11 and 9. And, but, we love to read. And so as he was using this program, he wasn't reading the board books of the early readers, because my kids were reading chapter books. And so what he did was he would start a chapter book and he would, record himself reading it, and my kids would follow along. And then he stopped. He either read the first chapter, he read just a little bit, and he said, okay, I can't wait to find out what happens in this book. And then I would give the book to the kids. And my son was like, wait, can I finish this and then tell Dad what happened? I'm like, I would love for you to do that. So then he was going up, reading on his own, getting immersed in the story. And then he had stuff to tell my husband. And so it helped to direct the conversation as well, as opposed to, well, I collected a rock and I saw a bumblebee. And not that that's not a good story, but it also helped to kind of guide what they were going to talk about. So yeah, we do still use the program.
Yeah, I love that concept, especially because, sometimes you can be talking to somebody that you love, but you may have not had any experiences like in like similar experiences because of the distance or because of, you know, different activities. And so like a book definitely guides good conversation. I didn't even think of it like that. I know that like it's kind of like after you go to like church or a sermon or you hear a TED talk, then you have some sort of conversation to have with your kids or your family and stuff like that. I feel like a book provides just all of that, right? That is a
Exactly.
really good way to think about it. So we've talked about how the nonprofit has changed, but the mission statement kind of stays the same. I also wanted to know what kind of materials you provide. I'm curious about like the books, like how are they chosen? How are they gifted to the service member, or do you guys put them in a library? Like how does that work exactly?
Sure. So it can work a few different ways. Quite a few staff members who will review the books that we offer. And so we have a couple different ways that we do books. We have our Storytime Starter Kit, and that's kind of our core. And there's 30 different titles in there. They range from board books through chapter books. There's bilingual books. We offer books in different languages. So we're really trying to find something for everybody because, you know, not everybody likes the same stuff.
Yeah.
And so in addition to that, we will do quarterly book gives. And so each quarter will kind of focus around a theme, and we'll try and find books that tie into that. So we're getting ready to look into our Q2 books, which is going to focus around STEM. So we're looking to make sure that our books tie into that because, you know, that's really big over the summer. There's a lot of STEM activities that take place. So we want our books that focus on that. But yeah, so those are our quarterly books. And so it may focus on pop culture, maybe on superheroes or everyday heroes. That was our last quarter because we just finished up Month of the Military Child. So we like to say that our military kids are heroes because of everything that they go through being a military kid. But not just, you know, superheroes, you don't have to wear a cape, but let's focus on the everyday heroes that are out there as well and making a difference. So again, Q2, we're going to focus on our STEM theme. And then Q3, we did it a little bit differently last year. That was our holiday and winter theme books. And then Q4, what we did is we kind of focused on empathy and experiencing other things that may go on. You know, we all live in our own bubble. No matter what we're going through, it's kind of our bubble. And we may not understand what someone else is going through because it doesn't impact our life. And so, you know, we had different books that focused on other things like Fish in a Tree is a chapter book. And it's a beautiful story about a girl in elementary school who's dyslexic, but she doesn't know she's dyslexic. And the teachers haven't picked up on it yet. And I actually read it with my children. And, you know, we were about halfway through. And my son looked at me and said, "This is really depressing." And I said, "It gets better." I said, "It's depressing because she is struggling. And she doesn't know why. And she, you know, trying to find friends and no one understands or accepts her." And I said, "It does get better because then it was discovered and then they were able to, you know, come up with a game plan." And so when it ended, I said, "So was it better?" And he said, "Yes." He said, "I really liked this book, but it was really depressing to start." I said, "But that's part of life." I said, "But now you know that if someone says to you, 'I struggle with reading,' or 'I struggle with this,' that, oh yes, I remember reading about this." So while you're not personally experiencing it, you have an idea of what takes place.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we do that. And then, you know, you asked about where the funds come from. So we have quite a few, not quite a few, we have some organizations that will donate to us. So like Dollar General Literacy Foundation supports us and will fund a lot of our books. So that's how we get our books out there. But we'll also do individual events. So, you know, Carter's just donated books or funding for books for a Month of the Military Child events. And so funds will come in through various assorted grants, and we'll use that to tailor it. One of the grants that came in was from Veterans United Foundation, and they supported not only us purchasing books, but also the kits themselves. So that's where we reached out to AnyPromo. And I remember my phone call with Gina, and she, bless her heart, because she did not hang up on me and be like, "Oh, crazy lady." But you know, she helped me to get 4,800 bears with our logo on it that we put in these kits that went to kids around the United States as they received these kits. And so when we get these books, we can either attend events, our staff members or volunteers can attend events where we have the books on display and we can hand them out. We have recording stations, and those happen worldwide. So we're all over the place. And so their sites will get the books, and the service members or veterans come in, they make the recording, and they get to take their books home with them. But with the our app that we have available, by implementing that, when they use that, they can also go online. They'll log into their individual story library, and they can request a book from us. And so we have over 100 titles to choose from. Like I said, we have our core, but then we have the other ones that come in. But they can request a book from us, and we will again ship worldwide. And we use Amazon Prime to fulfill those orders. So a lot of different ways, to get the books out there. And with that, someone can request a book before they even make a recording. We have ebook options on our app. So if they use that, but children like to hold the physical book, they can request that. Or if they can't hand deliver because they are deployed or they're away for class or training, or it's a veteran reading to a family member across the country, fill out that form, let us mail it on your behalf, and it's all free of charge. So we do take care of that. Yeah.
The military service members also have the opportunity to read whatever book that they would like to read, right?
It's most definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, if they've got a family favorite, definitely pull it out and read it. And that's, when my husband deployed, he said, I'm going to use United Reading. I'm going to use some of the books that you have. He's like, but I have ones that I really love to read with the boys. And I said, well, read that because that's important to them. It's your favorite and it's their favorite. So it's any book. You could go in the library and pick out books, ones off your head. You could read poems. Whatever you want to read to stay connected.
Yeah, it's almost like a family kind of book club. And then because you do have themed books that are for the whole organization, maybe if people wanted to talk about those books that they were also reading, that could also happen. I say that because at our company, we have like a little bit of a book club.
Oh, nice.
We've been on a little hiatus recently, but the last book that we all read was, it was by Jay Shetty. It was like, it was Think Like a Monk. It was Think Like a Monk. Yeah. It was a good, it was an interesting, thought piece. This man had lived as a monk for a while, and so he was sharing his insight on how monks think and how some of the monk mentality could be useful for the everyday person, right? Somebody that wasn't a monk wasn't walking around with a shaved head and the robe. But we really do love our book club because it opens up dialogue, it gives us something to talk about, and it definitely bonds the people that are in that book club too.
Most definitely.
Yeah, that's really cool. So I do want to talk about the kids again. So you did order some teddy bears for us. Like, do you know how they were received, or do you have any kind of feedback for us? Like, what other things did you include in the kit besides the book and the teddy bear?
Sure. So the kits consisted of a clear reusable tote bag, because let's face it, we put stuff everywhere. And so a lot of sporting events nowadays too are, yes, you're allowed to bring bags in, but they need to be clear. So we wanted to kind of be conscientious of the fact that this was not just a one-time use. So everything goes in the clear tote. And then we have the bears. We have it's like a phone stand, stress ball, desktop cleaner type thing. So the kids can use that, or the service members can use that to put their device in to make the recordings. We included a literacy piece about, the importance of reading and reading with kids of any age, establishing that reading routine. It's not just from birth to 2, but it really does go the entire gamut. And, we highlighted reading with kids, but obviously the importance of reading into adulthood. Definitely. There's also kind of the importance of reading it and how you can do it, how different it might look for each stage that a child goes through. A 16-year-old, I'm not going to point to a picture and say, do you see the apple? But, with a 2-year-old, I might do that. Yeah. And then we included program information about United Through Reading, kind of our backstory, who we are, what we do, but then also how to use our app to continue making these recordings. And then each kit came with 2 age-appropriate books. And so there was a total of 4,800 kits that we distributed across 18 states. Yeah, so there was a lot of behind the scenes that took place, and there was, like I said, my frantic call with Gina, who was absolutely amazing, making sure we had everything that we needed. And then, following up afterwards, here's your shipping. Let's make sure it's all got there. Did everything arrive? So very pleasant experience. And I thank her all the time for that. So these kids arrived in the end of February, and then each of my contacts had to assemble the kids. So they worked with so it went to a lot of National Guard child and youth program coordinators, and they worked with their teens. So they have a teen panel that came together and assembled the kits, and then they started to distribute them at their various assorted events. So maybe there was a post-deployment, meaning they had just come back from a deployment yellow ribbon, and that's for our National Guard, or they were hosting a month of the military child event and they were distributing, or they had other family events taking place, or they just simply shared on their social media, we've got these amazing kits, arrange a time to come in and grab one. And so they have been very well received. We've gotten some great pictures today. Actually, it was just posted online in Louisiana. And one of the pictures is the little boy holding his, and we call them reading buddies, but the stuffed animals, holding like super excited. And, one of the service members who got one of the kids was like, it may just be a stuffed animal to somebody, but for us, it's that connection. Like this entire kit is a connection that I get to have with my child. And so being able to do that. And it's one of those things where trying to find stuff that was age appropriate. We didn't want to give small pieces to a toddler. We didn't want to give a baby item to a teenager. But, those stuffed animals is something that everybody has. I still have some of my childhood stuffed animals. It makes an impact there.
That's so cool. I'm glad that I can actually hear that, because we are like completely e-commerce. So we really like that that connection from our clients sometimes, and hearing those stories, like I'm tearing up a little bit. So this kitting thing, kitting or event sort of thing, does it happen like quarterly? Does it happen like yearly? And you said it went to different centers, like, so you guys are located kind of all over the US. How does that work? What kind of events?
Sure. So United Reading itself, we're actually a very small staff. We're like 20 people, but we're spread throughout the country. So we do a lot of virtual events internally for ourselves. So we are as successful as we are, because, I did say we have recording locations around the world. We're as successful as we are because of our volunteers, those who say, hey, what can I do to help? And that could be that they're running a recording site. It could be that they're attending an event on our behalf, or, whatever we need them for, that they're helping out. And so with the quarterly book gives that we do, those go to our recording sites so that there's access there. Our staff will also get it so that if I'm attending an event, I'm able to show it. I help to do I call it story time with a service member. And I do it weekly here where I'm located, and a service member comes out and a group of kids come out and we all listen to the story. But it's, the same premise. We record that service member, they get a copy of that recording, but they are reading to children that are not theirs. They're reading, and it's providing that bit of respite for the parents. And then the kids are making new friends, and they're out of the house and they're playing, and that service member is feeling connected to the community. But yes, we also do kind of larger events. So we do the yellow ribbons, and that's for our National Guard and Reserve before or after they deploy. That's how they get all of their information. But we'll also do events on a larger scale, like AUSA, which is the Army Association, that they have their event. Or we might do a Milspouse Fest. So they have those throughout the country, and we can go and attend, and we man a resource table, but we have our books on display. Or we have over in the San Diego area of California, soon to be on the East Coast too, but it's called a mobile story station. And that is, it's a van that's basically decked out like a recording room. And so inside it's got a very comfortable chair. It's, kind of furnished that it looks like a living room setup. And we drive that to small events or large, wherever we're invited, and folks can go in and make a recording right there. So we do a lot of events, small and large, to try and meet that demand. And connect with as many service members and veterans as we possibly can. And as far as the kits like this was the first time we call them Be Drill Ready kits, because they're for our National Guard and Reserve service members, focusing on military life outside of deployment. So be drill ready because they have drill weekends. And so we have those, but we also have reading ready kits that go out to our service members to get them ready, when they're deploying, or just, again, establishing that reading routine. I know my coworker in California just put together some of these kits as well, because she's got different events, or a funder came through kind of like ours did that said, I would like to establish these and I want you to give these out. We're working on some STEM kits. And so that will have books as well, in addition to some other things that we've co-branded. So we really try and do something all the time and try and meet the needs wherever possible. So there may be kits, it may be, and I hate to say just books because it's never just books, but it may be the books, or there may be other things that go along with it.
Got it. And so when you say that people like have their recording site, is that usually like a community center, or like is it somebody's home? Like how does that work?
Sure. So it depends on where the person is located. So there's embedded story stations, and what those are is a particular military unit has it with them while they work. And so if they're getting ready to deploy, they take it, but it's accessible to the service members tied to that unit. Whereas on a broader scale, a permanent recording location is going to be available and accessible to the military population and veterans, because it's maybe at a chapel, or it's at a base library, or for our National Guard, it's at the armory. So it's kind of, you can go in, the hours are a little more flexible. It's not just during the workday itself. And then that mobile story station, like I said, that is located right now kind of in the San Diego area of California. We're working to get ours. It's up and running. We actually picked it up today. But that's going to be kind of DC focused, but we're looking to kind of go up and down the East Coast with it, kind of take it on a tour as well. So that's available there. And then, like I said, we have the app. So anywhere you are, you can do the recording. And then we do pop-up events. So that's, as I said, if there's yellow ribbons or family days, folks can reach out and say, hey, we're doing this. Could you or a volunteer make it out to this event? And so that's all over the place. And so we try and be everywhere.
So I guess the last question to close is like, where do you see this organization going in the future, or what are its future goals? What does it want to achieve? Go ahead. That was like three in one question, but go ahead.
No, well, so I mean, the goal, like I said, the mission itself hasn't changed over the years, so that's going to stay the same. We want to have our military families, past and present, veterans included, to stay connected with the important children that are in their lives. And we would love for that to be through the read aloud experience, because literacy is super important. And so by having that video recording, that's that way to stay in touch with them, because, and I tell people all the time, no one looks like you, no one sounds like you, no one has your quirks. And being able to see you as opposed to just hear you really makes a difference. So we're going to continue with that mission. But we also are working on getting more books into the hands of our military families, because we want to increase that literacy, raise a generation of readers. That old saying, today a reader, tomorrow a leader, we want to have that happen. And so, one of the ways that we're doing that is by getting those books out there. And so our hope and our goal is that people, kind of like you turned on to it and you're like, wow, that's really great, that other people will see that and say, how can I get involved? How can I help? And that they'll want to support, they'll want to volunteer with us, or even donate with us, or, sponsor like the Be Drill Ready kits, that they'll want to take on a project like that. Because, we have that need. As I said, we get calls all the time. Can you do an event here? Can you support this? We're a staff of 20 people. We can't be everywhere at once. So we do rely on our volunteers that say, hey, you know what? I live in Arizona. What can I do for you? That's so great. We actually had someone reach out to us and can you support this event? So what we would love to see is that we're always staying true to our mission, that we're supporting our service members and their families, that we're increasing the bonding experience through that read aloud experience. But then also that we're reaching more people that see our mission, agree with our mission, and want to help our mission, and make that possible in any way that they're able to.
Wow. Yeah. Well, you did mention that like your volunteers help with like any kind of events that pop up. Are there any other ways that like volunteers can help, or how exactly do you organize the volunteer system?
Sure. So we have on our website, there's our volunteer interest form. And what happens is when they fill it out, it comes actually to me. I'm currently handling the volunteer interest form, but I reach out to them and kind of see where they're at and what their interest is, because, here I am talking to you, but there are some people who are like, I will help you out, but I don't want to talk to a large group of people. So having them man a resource table, an event for 500 people, probably not what they're going to want to do. But, there are some people who want to do that. So maybe they help out at a yellow ribbon or a smaller event. Maybe they help to run a recording site. And so, I'll get and that's the thing about our recording sites is there's no cost associated with this program. So if someone is helping to run a recording site, not only are we sending them books, but we're sending them the recording equipment. We're sending them the collateral. We're training them and making sure that they're comfortable with that. So there's, the in-person events, there's kind of that behind the scenes where they have folks come in to make the recordings, but we also have, it's called our social media ambassador. And so I really want to help spread the word about this, but I'm not comfortable talking about people, but I'll share your program on social media on all these platforms, because also the thing that we've found is that word of mouth and a personal recommendation goes a whole lot further than just seeing an ad. I can watch a commercial all day long and that looks great, but I don't trust it. But if I have a friend who says to me, I actually tried that and it worked really well for me, well, then I'm more likely to try it. So we love our social media ambassadors, because then they share our posts and say, did you guys know about this? I just found out about it and here's how it worked. And it's so great. And that goes a whole lot further than just us sharing something. So our social media platform is out there. And then for our service members, who you do get the occasion who says, I love your program, I would love to be a part of this, but not only do I not have kids of my own, I actually don't know any kids. But if I did, I would do this. And so we have, it's called a story bank. And so service members can donate their stories. They can make their video recording and share it with us. And then we could possibly share it on our social media. We could share it. Our app has, it's called a spotlight video. And so last year for May the 4th, we did have a couple Star Wars characters who recorded Star Wars books for us, and we shared that as our spotlight video. So there's definitely ways that people can volunteer, and we're going to do our best to find that niche, find what makes them comfortable and how they can shine. And, we fully recognize that they are a volunteer, they have a life, they have a job, they have other obligations. So we're not going to weigh them down. We're going to see what works for them and when it works for them.
Thank you so much for listening to our first Made to Matter episode. A special shout out goes out to Tonya for her time and for sharing with us what the United Through Reading organization is doing for military families and child literacy across the United States. For those with military affiliation interested in joining the program or in volunteering, a link to the United Through Reading website will be in the episode description. Check out our blog as well on United Through Reading to see the summary of the conversation and pictures of the kids and their reading kits. If you're listening to this podcast and would like to nominate someone we can speak with, email us. Our contact information will be in the episode notes as well. Until next time, remember, you were made to matter, so make something meaningful out of every moment. Thank you for your time. We'll see you on the next episode of Made to Matter.